Are there new batteries on the horizon for electric vehicles? Let's get a bit of history on batteries. They were first discovered in 1799 by Alessandro Volta when he demonstrated that electricity could be made by an electrochemical means. And it was called the voltaic pile. And it was basically a pile of discs alternating zinc and copper with an electrolyte soaked material in between. Now, previously to that, Benjamin Franklin had coined the term battery, using a military term for weapons functioning together, when he grouped a number of Leyden jar capacitors together. Now, the first rechargeable battery was invented by Gaston Plante, and it was the lead acid battery, and that was in 1859. And by the 1880s, it had taken a much more practical form. And this resulted in a growth of electric vehicles back in the early 1900s. And that was in the United States and in Europe. But within a few years of the manufacturing of these EVs, it had ceased. And the internal combustion engine took over, as it could travel greater distances and at higher speeds. And also, when Henry Ford introduced the Model T in 1908, it did signal the end of EVs back then, because it was so much cheaper to make the internal combustion engine vehicle. Now, it wasn't until the 1960s a communication company, Comsat, began researching a new battery chemistry called nickel hydrogen. But the hydrogen was being stored at 82 bar, which is almost 1200 psi. And they were designed for use on satellites. Now, these batteries only had slightly better energy storage and density than the lead acid batteries, but they could go for over 20,000 recharge cycles. But over the next couple of decades, research into nickel metal hydride cells went on, resulting in batteries that had similar capacity to nickel hydrogen, but they had a 5-fold increase in power. And this resulted in the first consumer grade nickel metal hydride batteries becoming available in 1989. So with the advent of these new batteries, after almost 100 years, many car manufacturers began looking at making EVs again. In the early stages, they were more hybrid vehicles and powered by nickel metal hydride batteries. Successful early hybrids like the Toyota Prius used them, until lithium-ion batteries became the standard. And that was in the early 2000s. Lithium-ion batteries, they were still relatively unproven in electric vehicles, and they did cost more per kilowatt hour. But in around 2010, lithium nickel manganese cobalt oxide, or NMC batteries, evolved. And that's when Tesla came along, and they were using lithium nickel cobalt aluminium hydroxide, or NCA batteries, rather than the NMC type. And this was because they were slightly cheaper to manufacture and used less cobalt. They did have a problem with being slightly more unstable and needing good monitoring equipment. Now, going back again to the late 1990s, John B. Goodenough and his colleagues made a big leap in the battery chemistry, coming up with the first lithium ferrophosphate, or LFP battery, which was a lot more stable and less likely to get thermal runaway. So, there's a very quick bit of history on the battery. Now, EVs use a few different types of battery chemistry, and they're undergoing quite a lot of development at the moment. Basically, they're all using lithium in one form or another, and they've all got their pros and cons. The main consideration is the energy density compared to their weight. The more energy you can store in the battery per kilogram, the lighter the battery can be. For the same weight, the further the EV can go. So you need a high energy to weight ratio. So there are various considerations that go into the battery for an EV. The battery's weight, its storage capacity, its cost, its lifespan, its recharging capabilities, and also some sort of environmental impact, especially when it's recycled. Solid state batteries, they've been around for a while and coming for a long time. And they seem to be just around the corner and have been for a while, a bit like fusion reactors. I'm sure they'll eventually get there. There seems to be a new EV company starting up every day in China, and this one has recently surfaced claiming it's going to start mass production later this year in 2023 of an EV with a solid state battery. Baoya, or however you pronounce it, Baoya, is a brand under the FAW Jilin and Shandong Baoya Automobile Company. It's a joint venture between the two companies. The car is planned on being marketed under the Baoya brand and is currently labelled the FB77, although who knows what it will be called when released. On some of the pre-production cars, the plate indicates it could be called the Chi-Jet, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, this car is a sedan style with a reasonably good-looking aerodynamic body that was designed by the Italian design studio Pininfarina. Its unique selling point is that it's got a solid-state battery and is reported to have a range of 600 kilometres, according to the company. Make that 500 kilometres real-world driving, still not too shabby. Solid-state battery technology is mooted to be the holy grail for EVs, as it offers a high degree of safety, high energy density, long battery life, high charging cycle performance. There's no information yet available that I could find about the chemistry in these batteries, so if anyone comes across, please let me know. I know many game-changing battery technologies supposedly come along every week, and the game really hasn't changed very much, has it? So we'll just have to wait and see what happens here. But in general, solid-state batteries should be good for EVs. NASA has been investigating this promising technology, and it stated in a press release that solid-state batteries differ from the traditional lithium-ion batteries in that they lack the liquids that can cause overheating, fires, and diminishes the battery power over time. So these are problems that people who use the larger electronic devices are familiar with. Furthermore, solid-state batteries are capable of holding greater amounts of energy and performing better in challenging settings than the conventional lithium-ion batteries. Although NASA's research is primarily centered on aircraft, its findings will have significant ramifications for society as a whole. Consider the impact for an electric car battery that's got twice the energy density of current batteries and weighs 40% less. This might alter the equation when propelling the electric vehicle revolution forwards. If you can, click that like and subscribe buttons down there. It really does help the channel. There's another one, battery chemistry in the offing, sodium-ion batteries. Now, sodium's right next door to lithium on the periodic table, so it makes sense to consider it. It's a lot more abundant than lithium. It's easier to get, making a very good and cheaper alternative. Not only that, but it will be safer and less prone to thermal runaway. Sodium-ion batteries, I think they're still in their infancy, but progress is being made. At the moment, they're great for stationary storage, but they don't have that energy density, and their number of charging cycles is not up there yet. But, just like the history of batteries, lithium-ion, and so on, over the centuries, things have got really improved, and cost-wise, over the last 10 years, lithium-ion is now at 10% the cost it was 10 years ago. So we've made huge inroads in the last 20 odd years, and maybe over the next 5 years, sodium batteries will become the norm. Having said that, there is a report in Which Car that said BYD, yeah, that Chinese build your dreams, would launch the Seagull with sodium-ion batteries. They're going to use LFP in the top of the range one, but there's talk that it may come out with sodium-ion batteries. We shall wait and see. Right now, the main battery technology is lithium-ion, LFP, lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese, etc. But that is actually being improved tremendously as the years go by. CATL, Contemporary Amperex Technology Company Limited. They're a Chinese-based battery manufacturer and a technology company, and they've now got their Qilin battery. I think that's how you pronounce it. I did look it up. I thought it was Qilin, but according to all the things I could find on the web, it's Qilin, Qilin. And that's going to be made available very soon in the new Zeekr EVs this year. I believe Qilin is actually a mythical hooved chimeric creature from Chinese and other East Asian cultures. If that's what they've named it after, that's great. I'm not sure on that. Now, these Qilin batteries are CATL's third generation of CTP, or cell to pack. These are more energy dense at about 255 watt hours per kilogram, slightly better than lithium ion batteries, which is about 225 for the ternary batteries, and it's under 200 for LFPs. And they take up less volume, so volumetric, much better. And they've got what's called a C rating of 4C fast charging. Now, C rating for charging and discharging is a measure of how fast or slow batteries can take a charge. 1C means it will take 1 hour to charge. 2C, half an hour. 4C, 15 minutes. So that's pretty fast. With these improvements, Zeekr are saying that the Zeekr 001 will have a 620 mile or 1,000 kilometer range. Now, look, all these figures are based on the Chinese test cycle. So if you go to America and do the EPA test cycle, it ain't going to be that. But even so, take off, make it 450 or 500 mile range, 800 kilometers. That's still pretty damn good. So where does that leave us? Solid state batteries, I think they're still in their infancy, but they're growing up and we may well see them fairly soon. Sodium batteries, from what I can see, they still don't have that charging cycle, number of charging cycles behind them. I think the best that I found was 300. And when you look at an LFP with 3000 or a lithium ternary battery with 2000, yeah, I think that's still in their infancy. So I think we're going to see lithium ion batteries in its many, many forms, lithium, ferrous, phosphate, and all the ternary ones with cobalt and manganese in. They're still going to be the mainstay for EVs. CATL's new Qilin battery is just a subset of that, with some minor changes in the chemistry. But I'm sure research will progress. Battery prices will come down, as they have over the last 10 years. Energy densities are going to increase, and volumetric density will get better. So the future, I think, is good for EVs. So, little bit on batteries for EVs. I hope you found that interesting. If you've got any ideas, don't forget, stick some comments below. I do read all of them, honest. And if you really want to help the channel, you click that like and subscribe button below, pretty please. It really does help the algorithm and it does help me. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.